This is the video version of the podcast Meredith for Real, the Curious Introvert. And I'm Meredith. Here we explore the taboo, less obvious, and paradoxical aspects of society. Questions that need nuanced answers, not just Google results. The goal is to inspire curiosity over judgment. So, welcome to the curious side of the internet. If you're a repeat viewer, hit the subscribe and bell button so you never miss out on the latest curiosity. In the Western world, we are all very familiar with the vices that come with the digital age. Imagine, however, being in a country where your grandparents are still living in the same way that their ancestors did thousands of years ago, and being faced with the wide open spaces of the internet. This is Mongolia. During my recent time there, I had the privilege of having beautiful conversations that helped me enjoy the high contrast of Mongolia as a new old place. This is the first of this series where I'll be sharing the push and pull of tradition and progress in a space so unique it cannot be compared to any other country. And my next guest is someone who is eager to share all sides of his home country. He's the mastermind behind the YouTube channel called Real Mongolia. Today he's going to share what it was like growing up in the Ger District, spending summers with his grandmother in the steppe, and his observations of the impact digital technology is having on mental health, relationships, and identity. Celebrator of culture, teller of truth, man of many talents, Bayarsaikhan Ganzorig.
Ne koyur. Okay.
Is that how you say test?
Yeah, ne koyur. It's like 1, 2.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, Mongolian language is difficult.
I like it though.
To learn.
It sounds like a special whisper, like over the steppe, like the sound. It's just so beautiful. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, my viewers always tell me that Mongolian language sounds unlike anything else. Sometimes they say it's like sounds like Korean. Sometimes they say sounds like American. Sometimes they say it sounds like European.
Yeah, your channel has helped me prepare before I arrived here, which I'm so grateful for. You have a great channel. I love how you split up the topics that were not even on my radar, topics that I wouldn't have thought to listen for. And it's in such a bingeable way, which is the key, right, to being a successful YouTuber, is you want people to binge on your videos. What inspired you to start your channel?
Well, I started my channel during COVID-19, where I was in a lockdown at my home. I was bored. I was depressed. I didn't know what to do. And then I thought maybe I could start my own channel. So I first started doing some reaction videos. Like reaction is the easiest thing to do, right? You react to some Mongolian videos. So I just started doing that. And then the lockdown was lifted. So I started going out, just exploring the city, show things around. So I get inspired from the channel called Real Russia. I was always interested in Russia and Russian culture, but when I search Russian life or Russia from internet or YouTube, it just shows these fancy documentaries. But I wanted to see real Russia, ordinary, normal, working class people, their daily life, what makes them laugh, what makes them cry, something like that. So I thought maybe I could do something like this. And also there's a channel called Asian Boss, which does a lot of street interviews. So my channel is like a combination of these two channels. My main goal with my channel is to promote Mongolia, to my culture, my tradition, my people, my history, because I absolutely love my country. Just so proud of being Mongolia. It's because on the internet, there's not so much information about Mongolia in English. Most of them are also just city life or produced by these big channels. Also, it's like official stuff.
Well, yeah, it's very macro. It's very like, here is the overview of history of Mongolia. Because I was Googling and trying to find these things. And yours was the only one that I found, which was like the micro of the right now Mongolia, man in the street style interviews of what people think.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. And for example, the Ger districts, people, almost more than half of the Ulaanbaatar's residents live in the Ger districts, but they don't show how people live there. they just show this city center, the apartment blocks. But in the Ger District, I grew up in the Ger District. It's hard life. There's no like central heating system. There's no water pipes. You have to physically go there to get water from the water kiosks, and you have to buy some coal to warm your gear during winter time. So it's really a hard life, but so many people live there. And so I also wanted to show that kind of life, because Mongolia is not just Ulaanbaatar. Mongolia is a vast country. And yeah, that's what I'm trying to do with my channel.
We went to the Ger District yesterday or the day before. I'm kind of losing track of my days, and it was very interesting. Can you explain the history of why you have this city in Mongolia?
Yeah, Ulaanbaatar is located between four mountains, and initially it was built for, I think, 300,000 people. But Mongolians are nomadic people, and I'm not really a history expert, but so Ulaanbaatar really became city in the 1920s when the revolution came. It's called People's Revolution, but it's actually the communist revolution, and Mongolia became part of the communist countries. And then the Soviet Union helped us a lot to build all these buildings, the apartment blocks, and then gradually Ulaanbaatar became bigger and bigger.
And if I understand correctly, part of the reason that we have the Ger District and then also so many people also moving to the city is that nomadic lifestyle is, quite difficult. And there was some really bad snowstorms, sandstorms that happened that wiped out all of the progress that the traditional herders had with their livestock. Like they all died, right? So they had kind of no choice.
Yeah, it's called Zud. Zud is like severe winter condition where there's a lot of snow and there's nothing to eat for the animals, and these animals just die in large numbers. For nomadic herders, the livestock or animals are their main asset. It's their wealth. So what happens if you lose everything you own? You need to go somewhere else, right? In the 1990s, Ulaanbaatar's population was just 1 million. But in the past 30 years, it's just exploded because of the poverty and the mass migration from countryside to the city, because a lot of herders just abandoning their traditional lifestyle and moving into the city. And that's why it's getting crowded and crowded. And because Ulaanbaatar is located in this valley, between four mountains, it's really hard to expand it. That's why they building a new buildings within the city, and which makes the traffic and everything more difficult to live. So everything is connected, but it's not happened overnight. It's been happening for the past 30 years. But in the past 10 years, things got really worse, because the frequency of Zut, the natural disasters, especially, for example, this winter was really tough. There was like 8 or 9 million animals died, and you can't see it right now, but it's still happening. I think so many people lost their livestock this winter, and they are now moving into the city. So it's like a gradual process.
You mentioned how proud you are to be Mongolian, and that means a lot of different things, as I understand. I mean, do you feel sad that some of that nomadic lifestyle is going away? I asked that because also you said you grew up in the Ger District, which you admit like, oh, that was really difficult. But also, is it sad that the traditional lifestyles are being replaced by sky rises?
Yeah, it makes me feel sad, because Mongolians are nomadic pastoral herders. That's who we are. It's our identity. And I think we are losing it over time, gradually. So it makes me feel sad. For example, I was born in the Western Mongolia, and when I was 5 years old, my family moved to here, Ulaanbaatar. But every summer during a school vacation, I would go back to my home province and spend summer months with my grandmother. She was a nomadic herder. So I know the nomadic herding lifestyle because I grew up with it. So I feel really grateful for my grandmother, who taught me everything about this kind of nomadic lifestyle. And I also have a deep respect and for animals and nature, because Mongolians really have a deep respect for nature and everything that's connected to it.
Is your grandmother still with us?
No, she passed away.
How do you think she would feel about your YouTube channel if she understood like the concept behind it?
Yeah, she would. I think she would have been proud.
Yeah.
I actually made a video about my grandmother.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of like a nostalgic video.
That's amazing. It feels like that you're very much in this really harmonic middle, I would say, between appreciating tradition and leveraging new technologies to enhance the past and like set yourself up for the future. But do you also see conflict between the past and what people consider like progress and advancement?
I was born in the early 90s, 1990s. So when I was growing up, there was no internet, there was no mobile phones, there was no smartphones. So, and then when I was like teenager, the first like internet come and mobile phones come. So I experienced both of the generation. So I kind of feel bad for the today's generation, because they just grew up in the city without experiencing the beautiful landscape, beautiful lifestyle. And to me, Mongolian mindset is changing because of this urbanization. There are many people who are trying to preserve it, but the modern technology and development, it's really attractive to them.
How have you seen that affect how people perceive themselves? Because FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, seeing another way of life, maybe whether that's within your own culture or outside, it could make you feel bad about what you have or don't have. Have you observed any of that yourself, either within yourself or within younger people?
Yeah, I can see that every day.
Really?
Because in Mongolia, I prepared some statistics here, and so more than 70% of the Mongolian population use social media, which is huge number, and we only have 3.5 million, and Mongolian population is really young. So almost 24% of the population is aged between 18 to 30. So it's really like technological savvy generation. It's really connected, and everything is for them. And for example, when I was growing up, there was this lack of information. We couldn't find information. We just relied on books or just from our friends, from our parents. And sometimes there was misinformation, but it was in a certain level. But now there's a problem of like abundance of information, like too much information, and also it poses some problem for young people, because you can basically just open your phone and look up anything, and you have access to everything. So sometimes young people, they don't know how to filter information. They just see everything. And I think we need some law or regulation regarding the access to internet for a certain age, because Mongolian people, children aged from starting age like 8, 9, they have a mobile phone, they have their own Instagram, they have their own Facebook account, and nobody is monitoring them. And there's a lot of like problems like cyberbullying, unrealistic body expectations, because there's young girls are looking Instagram models and all this adult content. So it's like giving them wrong ideas. So I just hope that parents need to monitor their children's usage of Facebook. And
It's hard for parents though if the parent doesn't understand how it works. Like if the parent it doesn't use social media, it's almost like it's harder for them to understand the impact of social media. But I love that you're referring to not just the mental health aspect, but you're also referring to the relationships. You mentioned they're looking at adult content, so that changes the way that they see what romantic relationships should even be.
Yeah. For example, in the countryside, you can still use your mobile phones, right? So it's like when you're herding your goats and sheep, you can just look up and any content you want. For example, when I was growing up, there was like Korean wave, the K-drama was so huge.
Is that like a soap opera?
Yeah, soap opera, like K-dramas. And my first idea of romantic like relationship came from that kind of movies,
Oh no.
soap operas. And they were like so dramatic, like, oh my God, please don't leave me. I love it. And so I was like young boy, I saw those movies and I thought, oh, that's how a relationship should look like. Should be dramatic,
Jealousy and all
jealousy
that.
and jealousy and cheating, everything like, oh, and that's normal because it's in the movies. And because there's no internet, I couldn't look up I couldn't search for other information. So and now the same thing is happening with the young people, because now they have influencers. They just copy the influencers.
Yeah, I mean, that brings up a lot of potential dangerous topics. I don't know if this is happening here, but like we have human trafficking that is all happening through social media, because even if that person is never physically removed from their home, the predator, the adult seeking the minor, would say, oh, send me a picture of yourself and then I will send you game credits on your video game. And so that's trafficking. But the child never leaves the home. So parents who are naive would think like, oh, my kid's safe. She's in her bedroom. But no.
Yeah, recently there has been big cases of crime related to social media. There were some scandals involving social media. For example, some girl was bullied by her friends and they just recorded it and posted on the internet. And also one guy pretended he was like a teenager and met this young girl and had so it's now people are paying attention to this kind of stuff. So it's people are getting more knowledge, but still we have so many things to do.
So many things to do.
Yeah.
What's interesting is I see, that like saying reverse Uno card, like you're like I see content creators doing reverse Uno card on both of those things that we talked about, like the dangers and also the cultural traditional preservation part. So like for the dangers, I see these content creators that are saying, hey parents, listen up, or hey kids, this is how you listen to your inside voice to know something's not right. So it's so interesting. Instead of totally fighting the technology, they're saying, actually, let's leverage technology to help educate our kids. And then on the traditional side, which is kind of what I see you fitting into a little bit, is this is happening in Alaska, is all of these Alaskan creators who are indigenous Alaskans, they're using social media to promote and celebrate their traditional lifestyles. So they're showing like, okay, this one time a year, this is when we go hunt for beluga whale, and this is how we prepare the whale, and this is why we braid our hair. And I just eat it up because it's like I can, in a sense, travel when I'm on my phone. But it's almost like that reverse FOMO. Like, oh, look, this is me with my grandma, or this is me with my mom, and we have the chin tattoos, and this is what that means. And isn't that beautiful? Do you kind of see yourself as a part of that at all?
Yeah. That's actually what I'm trying to do. I am planning to go to my home province this summer, and there will be a huge celebration, huge festival. So I'm planning to film everything, how people live in the countryside, how just they enjoy this solitude, peaceful lifestyle. Because like you can see, Ulaanbaatar is a really chaotic city,
Yeah.
It's hard for find a place to relax. It's like everywhere there's like cars, they're honking people, but in the countryside, you can be totally alone with yourself, with your thoughts. I just want people to see the value of this lifestyle.
I've seen so much contrast since I've been here. What you're calling the Real Mongolia, we went to the countryside yesterday, and one of my favorite parts is we went out into what felt like in the middle of nowhere and the middle of everywhere at the same time. I mean, there was like mountains on every side of us and this beautiful, just field and there was wildflowers and I rode a wild horse and we hung out with a family. And then there's this sharp contrast to, right now we're sitting in this podcast studio overlooking some really impressive looking buildings and hearing the horns honk and seeing the traffic,
Yeah,
the new and the old.
New and old, there's always been clash between new and old and nomadic and sedentary lifestyle. For example, Mongolians are traditionally nomadic people. So we had this distrust towards sedentary lifestyle. I read this from Genghis Khan's book, and because Mongolian warriors, nomadic herders, they thought that the weakness of sedentary people is because they don't move. They just stay in one place. That's their weakness. And Genghis Khan thought that if we become like sedentary lifestyle, we might become like weak like them. So that was their way of thinking. So that's why Genghis Khan and all the warriors in the 13th century, they didn't want to build the walls, city, stay in one place. And then gradually the times have changed and now we are city folks.
You seem like an anomaly that you're willing to talk about some of the more negative aspects. Where does that come from?
Yeah, because when I first started my channel, I made a promise to myself not to just show the good sides of Mongolia, because if you just hide the problems, it will just grow. But if you openly talk about it, at least there's a chance to solve it, right? For example, in Mongolia, there are so many problems. We have alcohol problem, we have domestic violence problem. I think we just need to talk about it and educate people about it. So that way we can solve it. For example, in the communist time, during the Soviet influence time, the problems were just hidden. If you want to talk about the corruption, all the nepotism or other stuff, they just put you in jail. But now we have a democracy, so we can talk about it, So that's the thing I want to do with my channel too, because every nation has their bad sides,
Mm-hmm.
For example, in Mongolia and America, and even in Japan, it's considered like safest country in the world, most developed country, but there are still some bad things going on.
Yeah, it's interesting. In the American South, we say, hide your crazy.
Yeah.
Hide it. And so there's always that temptation to sweep things under the rug.
I forgot to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
I talked social media in a negative light, but there are some benefits of social media, which is bringing out the deep hidden problems to the public. For example, before that, I don't know how to say this, but the Buddhism is like a sacred religion, right? But no, like last year there was the scandal about the sexual abuse, among the Buddhist monks. So that because of the social media, it become widespread, it become viral, and people actually talked about it. But I think if there wasn't social media, it would be just put under the rug, So I think social media has this kind of impact, It can bring a positive change to the society, but you just have to be careful with it, because some people might use it for their own gain, maybe like accuse someone for something they didn't do. But yeah, I'm glad that these kind of deep hidden problems are surfacing. So this is a good side of social media. Yeah.
Yeah, social media is a double-edged sword. Mm-hmm. But it's a powerful tool because it kind of puts the power back in the people. You don't rely on a larger media outlet to accept your story or what you want to say.
Yeah, Arab Spring, the revolution, the whole revolution thing started in Arab, I think in 2010s. And it started with one video of guy protesting. I think he set himself on fire to protest against the government. And that video was shared online. And then people started to gather on the streets. And it was, I think, I don't remember the country. And then the whole other Arab nations started to, gather on the streets. And yeah, I think that's the power of social media.
Yeah, it is, if you use it for good.
Yeah, if you use it for good. So yeah.
You have a background in journalism?
Yeah, I have a bachelor degree in journalism and literature critic. I'm a literature critic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I didn't do that kind of stuff. I just focused on my journalism stuff. But I have a passion for sports.
Okay.
So what I did was most of the time I did some sports journalism.
So would it be broadcasting like on mic on TV, or is it written?
Both. Yeah.
Both.
I did some articles for websites and then I started working for television channels. It was a MNB World, which is like a branch of Mongolian National Broadcasting, which is a Mongolian version of BBC or NHK World. It's a state-sponsored television channel. So when I was working there, I did some reports on sports and also did some reports on culture, and it really helped me to hone my skills on journalism and especially in like video editing, and it helped me to grow my channel with that kind of skill. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And so what do you do now? Are you a YouTuber full time?
It's my side hustle.
Yeah.
I would say.
As it is all of ours.
Yeah. I'm trying to grow my channel and I hope to make it my full career if I can make enough money from it. But now it's just my side passion. My full-time job is I'm a manager of a sports organization. Yeah.
Is sports journalism or sports?
Sports organization. It's a federation. It's a mixed martial arts.
What?
Yeah. Mongolians love to fight. It's in our DNA. If you see the sports that we won the Olympic medals, it's all about fighting, like judo, boxing, freestyle wrestling, and then shooting. It's all about fighting. And the second most popular sport in Mongolia is basketball. And there's one guy who is in the NCAA, and he has a real chance to get to the NBA. Yeah. So sports is really big here.
Wow. It'll be interesting to see where Mongolia is in the next 15 years and what their position is on the global stage in 15 years.
Yeah, in 15 years, I think you wouldn't recognize Mongolia because for the past 10 years, things have changed so much. And so many high rises, and also in terms of people's mindset and thinking perspective, it just changed a lot. And so next 15 years it will be a big change for us, I think. But Mongolian geopolitical situation is kind of difficult because we are just sandwiched between these two big nations, Russia and China, and everything depends on them because if Russia and China decide to go to war, it will be end for us. But, everything we do has some kind of influence from these both sides. It's like a power struggle between two powers, and we just have to find a middle ground between these two big guys. And, we are just trying to do our best.
The bear and the dragon, right?
Yeah. I'm not really into politics, but you just can't ignore the fact that everything is influenced by either by China or Russia. We totally rely on our two neighbors in terms of economy, trade, export, import. And so we can't say bad things about them, because they, for example, if you say bad things about Russia, they would just cut their petrol and their electricity and we would be in bad situation. So we just have to be really careful with our neighbors. And as for tourism, it's a good way to boost the economy because we can't just rely on minerals and cashmere and agriculture. We have to rely, and we need another source of income. And tourism is a big thing for us. It's really important for us. So I heard that the Mongolian government is aiming for 1 million tourists each year. And for example, last year we received 600,000 tourists, so it's growing. And I think what we need to do, we make our country attractive. We need to make our tourism sector more attractive for tourists because they come here, they spend their money. We need to make them comfortable, and we just have to be welcoming.
As someone who values the traditional preservation, how do you propose
the impact of tourism?
Yeah, because I live in a place that's beautiful. You should come. It's gorgeous.
Where is it?
I'm in the panhandle of Florida.
Florida.
Yeah, but the northern part, northwestern part.
Okay.
And it looks like the Caribbean. Our sand is so white. The waters are crystal green. It's beautiful. I know, right? Like you
Wow.
want to go there right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
Let's
fantastic.
go now.
Let's go. Let's leave.
Yeah.
But the although we rely heavily on tourism as just a small, because it's a small town, there's also like negative to it, and we all feel it. Like the tourists come, they leave their trash everywhere. Businesses accommodate tourists without any consideration of locals. And so like the annoying things that like the food quality is for the tourists, so it's flavorless and very expensive. But also other things like, I don't know, the infrastructure, and it just seems like there probably are smarter ways to do it. And it feels important to me that it's called Pensacola, that Pensacola has the long game in mind, right? Like, let's think of the long game when we think about tourism. How can we do this in a way that doesn't ruin our ecology, that doesn't forget about locals? So I wonder if you've thought about this at all.
Yeah, I thought about this too. But because Mongolia is a third world country, we are a developing country, and Mongolian people's especially in the countryside, they are mostly poor people. Their monthly salaries compared to Ulaanbaatar is so low. They just want more and more tourists to maybe send their children to the schools, to buy more stuff for their home. So now, for right now, it's people not really thinking about this kind of problem. They just want to receive more and more tourists. They're just thinking about it from the economic perspective. But I think in the next 5 or 10 years, people will start talking about this problem. But right now, it's just all about, oh, we need more tourists. We need to reach 1 million tourists. We need to reach 2 million tourists a year. And I've seen the impacts of our tourism from other countries like Japan or in Europe. There's just so many people, and then some people just actually destroyed the historical artifacts there in China, I think. But right now in Mongolia, we're not really reached that level. We're just thinking from the economic perspective. And so the government, even from the top level, they just think that we need more tourists. We need to bring more tourists. So how do we attract them? How do we bring more people? Yes.
Yeah, well, hopefully they'll create some preventative measures, because the biggest thing that I've heard people talk about in cities like this is the impact on housing, because you have people who like they rent at their apartment, and then their landlord sees, oh my gosh, I can get 4 times the amount on this apartment if I kick out my tenant and make it an Airbnb, right? And so then you have like Airbnbs everywhere, and then people have nowhere to live. And like you said, there's mountains. It's not like you can just expand, And so there's this displacement of locals, and then pretty soon it becomes just a city filled with tourists seasonally.
Yeah, it's a natural process, I think, because wherever there's so many people stuck in one place, the rent will be higher. For example, take a look at Hong Kong, the rent is so high. And I actually saw the one documentary that shows people living in a cage, almost like a cage. They almost look like, this looks so miserable. So, well, Mongolia it's not like we are in an island, Mongolia has a huge landscape. So I think the government needs to do something about it. For example, we have smaller cities like Darkhan, Irnet, which is north of the Ulaanbaatar, and we could move some government places there. We could do anything. We could do so many things, but we instead they just building more and more buildings in the city, which is causing more crowding and more traffic problems, more rents, prices, and yeah.
Well, let's hope for a balance.
Yeah, I'm just hoping for a balance, because I'm not against mining, because it's good for economy. We need to develop as a country. But we just need to make the things a balanced way. Just protect the nature
In a thoughtful way.
It's a good way. So, and that's what I'm hoping for in the future. Yeah, I think this winter people actually realized that climate change is really real. So we need to do some action about it, because before people start doing something when they actually face the problem, right? And So this harsh winter was really like warning for us, because people didn't think that this time would come, and they just thought, oh, we could use natural resources any way we want, but it's actually, it has limits. And there's a problem of like overgrazing. There's so many animals. For example, in 2000 we had 35 million animals, like livestock in Mongolia. Now it's 70 million. So it's like there's this overgrazing problem. And also because of the cashmere demand, people are having more and more goats. And goats are really bad for the environment, because they just when they eat in grass, they damage the roots, because they have these hooves. So, and the Mongolians traditionally knew this, because they knew that if you have so many goats, it will damage the environment. But now people just want to have more goats because of the cashmere. They want to make more money. So we just need to learn from our ancestors, because they knew how to balance things. Yeah, so we just need to learn from our ancestors, from Genghis Khan, his teachings.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's hope that you are part of the best uses of the new technology to promote the wise ancestral practices, and that Mongolia in the future will be both a well-visited place and a well-cared-for place. Tell people where they can find your content.
Yeah, just search Real Mongolia on YouTube, and there's my channel. And
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. Yeah, Real Mongolia.
Well, thank you. This was fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me.